Hey guys, another episode of Critical Comics. How's it going, everyone? We are here in our winter wonderland, seeing snow for the first time in a quarter of a century, that type of thing. All kinds of stuff happening over the course of the new year, Christmas, all that good stuff has passed. And this is Corey, master of all four elements, Carter.
Jonathan Crane, the master of fear.
And of course, Fred Freeze. I'm here, there, everywhere.
And we're in the studio today, a few months late on a couple of different films, but I thought, hell, we might as well talk about them anyway, because, why not? This particular episode, we're going to be doing a couple of reviews, one of which is going to be for Justice League, and the other one is going to be for Star Wars The Last Jedi. We're going to give you our thoughts on those, the pros, the cons, what we liked, what we didn't like, and, also going to be moving on to some movie news as well. So let's start off with the one that we kind of dreaded going to with Justice League. We've been dreading this film for a very long time, particularly because we knew it was going to be one big giant mess, especially after the award-winning Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice. None of us in this room were looking forward to that movie. But
This
overall,
project,
what were your thoughts?
this project was kind of doomed from the start. I mean, let's be honest with ourselves. When we came up with the concept of the world's finest film happening,
Easily could have beaten the Avengers movie, in my opinion.
we
Easily.
we were hyped about the entire thing. We were hyped about the future of DC. We said that a world's finest project would be the best way to start it off. Then you could move on to the Justice League. Well, all hell broke loose. The sky fell. And we got Batman versus Superman, and after getting that, now we moved on to a couple of projects. Some disappointed, some were pretty good. Wonder Woman.
We got one.
So now we land on this film. What can I say about this? It's better. It's better than Batman versus Superman. I guess that's what everyone kind of. That's
Which
what
is
everyone
a low
kind of
bar to set. Everybody said, "Well, it's better than Dawn of Justice." Yeah, Suicide Squad was better than Dawn of Justice.
Yes, it was.
Not by a lot, but it was still better.
Yeah, it's another. Yeah.
I just think that DC is still kind of somewhere stuck between Marvel deciding to really do the comic book movies the way they should be, and the Phantom from back in the day. You know what I'm saying? Back when people were taking things not so seriously with superhero movies. And I think that that's the big thing. They're still like telling superpowers. They're not really telling stories. They can't get you to buy in. I mean, I don't want to get too much into the dismantling because I know we'll be talking about that more in the review. But they can't get me to buy in. And the point I always try to make, and we'll make this point again, is the fact that I've never cared about Iron Man in my entire life.
You're still gonna go back to Civil War forever. Civil War just hooked you from that point.
When they made me care, I said Marvel is not playing around because they had me locked in. You know what I mean? And it's like at that point, like even with stuff like you paid attention, I was shocked by Ant-Man.
Everyone was shocked by Ant-Man.
Everybody's shocked. I'm shocked by like Dr. Strange. Like, how are they gonna pull this crap off? How are they gonna make me care? And they sit there and. Doctor Strange gave me something that was entertaining. That was like, how are they going to do this? They have their misses here and there, but even their misses aren't like as off as this.
No, and here's the crazy thing is that this is coming from a group of people that actually thought the Justice League film was passable. That's the biggest compliment I get.
I didn't think it was passable.
No, I thought you came out and said you thought it was at least a passable film.
I thought that it wasn't Batman versus Superman. I didn't think it was passable, but I was just like, you didn't give me the Abomination, and I'm glad that you didn't make Sarah quit. That was all I had to say.
Yeah, Sarah just checked out on that on Batman v Superman, but I thought the film was passable. I thought it left me entertained.
There were some entertaining moments.
There were a lot of portions, just like it's been in the entire freaking franchise, that left me wondering why they went in that direction, why they decided to do this, why they decided to do that, why they completely. Well, let's just go into the cons right away.
Okay.
The one of the biggest ones is I know we harp on origin stories a lot when it comes to superhero films, especially because we've seen certain ones over and over and over again, Spider-Man, that we don't care to see anymore. But at the same time, you do need something before you bring together a group of people that are supposed to be a team. And the biggest weakness of this is they're trying so hard to set up these solo films after the fact that they don't really give you cause to care for these new characters they're bringing in. I'll admit they did a pretty decent job to me with Cyborg.
They did as well as they could.
They did as well as they could, given no material. But I feel like all of the things. Aquaman is a big con for me. Jason Momoa. All right. First of all, I will say that Aquaman. They try to set him up in a way that they give him some sort of backstory in less than a couple of scenes to try to intrigue you, I guess. But it doesn't work. You see the dude swimming underwater. You see him talking to some other people that are underwater. They reference some stuff about his lineage or whatnot, and that's really all you get. You don't really get anything more from this guy except, oh, well, there's something going on there, I guess. And that's really it.
I don't know. Maybe we're being unfair because we're trying to compare it to Marvel films when they spent years preparing us for each character, preparing us for the backstory of a character and building up these people. So now we get to see them. And
I don't feel like we're being unfair. They did this to themselves. People have been doing this for years.
They did.
People have been saying for years, don't do this because it's the wrong direction to go.
But this is what we're left with. And for that, it went as well as it could have gone. Same thing with Cyborg. It went as well as it could have gone, unless they just give me someone who's unbelievably intriguing as Aquaman, which I'm just not that intrigued with Jason Momoa, but I don't hate him. But it's like, what could he do? What was he given? And he really wasn't given much.
And to say the least about Jason, the other thing I will say about the Aquaman character is that there was a lot of meat there that they wouldn't go for because they're so afraid of all of the bad press that Aquaman has gotten over the years. So they decided to overcompensate like crazy to have Jason Momoa.
Fred, do you have anything to say about Aquaman real quick?
Prince Namor.
Okay.
And that's what DC was going
man.
for.
Just gonna go with Namor again. Say he's just a knockoff. Go ahead.
Well, actually, he is because Namor was first. But what they were doing with Momoa, of course, they're actually going down that line, just like when Aquaman got the beard and lost his hand and all that other stuff. They tried to make it more edgy. They even gave him most of Namor's stick as far as even kind of like a turn off toward the surface world. But
which is stupid.
Yeah,
we're just stupid for this character.
And
he's not Namor, guys. He's not.
And yes, as a Namor fan, that does bug me. But one thing I'll say, if I can be a brief comic book nerd about the whole situation, how DC really messed. Yes, very brief.
Only brief. Okay.
Yes.
I'll time you.
I'm going to be a real comic book nerd here. The issue is, if you take a look at why superhero teams came together to start with, number one, it was to get all of your premier characters together in one book so it would sell quicker, right? But they would always create some kind of big world-shattering event beforehand. Now notice, your premier superhero characters had what beforehand? They already had their books.
Of course.
So they already had people paying attention. So people were wondering what would happen if Batman, Superman, and everybody had to get together to do something and take down crime. Marvel went down that path.
They figured it out.
Exactly. They figured out. They said, hey, I've got to do serials and then give you a team. And then make the team functional. And then I'm going to do all of these passes to pretty much make everybody aware of what's going on. And DC is just going straight for the full Monty, like, hey, there we are. Everybody came together, and they're shoehorning so many timelines together. Now, my thing is, and I'll say this, and I'll give the floor back to Crane over here. One thing I'll say is, when I look at all of these superhero movies as a comic book head, I look at it as part of the multiverse. It's another version of what exists in our comics.
That's true.
So it's not going to follow the timelines exactly. Everything didn't happen there exactly as it would in a straightforward storyline or like in some kind of linear timeline. It's just another part of the multiverse. So the movie universe is another part of the multiverse. The same with Marvel. So when people say there's a discrepancy, I feel like it's just part of the multiverse. So it's just another look. But DC drops the ball totally with their part of the multiverse because they're shoehorning people in.
They're in a mad rush to try to catch up.
Exactly.
They're about to get they're about to get slaughtered with the. Well, I'll get to that news later. With another movie that's coming out. But the last thing I'll say about Jason Momoa is the dude was horribly miscast. He was horribly miscast. He makes an awful, awful Aquaman. Even for the direction that they're trying to go. And I feel like there was a giant opportunity missed because DC has their own answer to Daredevil. Not to Daredevil, sorry. Their own answer to Deadpool. And it's not Deathstroke. They've had their own answer to Deadpool that they could have done a while ago that he actually would have been perfect for. Lobo. The dude would have been perfect to play Lobo if DC decided to actually make a movie about it.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Folks, if
but
you've never
do you
read
really
it-
want to see DC try to tackle Lobo right now? I mean, they're already kind of. It's difficult for them to get Batman. It's difficult for them to get Superman. So getting Lobo, but you know what? Maybe that'll actually be good because of that.
That might be the thing that brings them out. I don't know.
Yeah,
That'll be the movie
maybe
they take a chance on. That is like they'll do it the same way they did it with Deadpool. Like they won't give it a shot. The star will have to be really dedicated, and then it'll end up.
End up being great.
Wonder Woman or something.
Because exactly. Out of all of these films, I wanted Wonder Woman to be great. It turned out, pretty good. I'd say 8, out of 10. That's much better than we originally thought.
True.
But yeah, it seemed like even though Wonder Woman is a classic hero, I thought that Batman and Superman would turn out better than they did, surprisingly enough. So
yeah, another con in my particular list is Superman's mustache lip.
Mustache lip?
I don't think
hair
you were there.
lip.
I don't think you were there for that. Now, for those of you who don't know,
he was dead, right?
Got to know this by now. Because of a contractual obligation with another film that was going on, it was a shit show of a production for Justice League because Zack Snyder was in and he had 90% of the movie done, and then he had to get taken off the project, and then Joss Whedon got brought in and pretty much reshot almost 80% of what they'd done to completely redo the movie, completely redo the tone. And when he was doing the reshoots at the time, Henry Cavill, who plays Superman, was already a part of another production. And when they had to bring him back for reshoots, apparently for that production, Henry Cavill had grown a mustache. And what ended up happening was the Warner Brothers asked the other production, hey, I know he's contractually obligated to be with you guys, but can he shave that off because we need to do reshoots? And they told him no. We need him to have his mustache. You can have him for the reshoots, but that's, making it disappear is your problem. And I don't think you were there for that scene, Brand, but there was a piece of camera footage that was supposed to be in the very beginning of the movie where it's like a camera phone, like some kids recording Superman after he saves a building from burning down, where they CGI'd off the mustache. And it looked like his lip head was trying not to collapse, was what it was. It looked so bad. It's one of those things that later on in the movie when they actually show close-ups, now you don't notice it because the actual, the real, CG team that was in charge of all the stuff there, they were responsible for all the close-ups and all the stuff that happened in the movie. And I heard that that same team, when that footage was later shot, kind of said, what the hell is that? Because they were not consulted on that part.
So, I think that there's a bigger issue here.
Okay.
That Superman can't grow a mustache back quick enough. That's the bigger issue. This isn't a man. What type of man can't grow his mustache quick enough? Come on, man. It takes some guys, a week?
Maybe he's not the Superman that we thought he was.
Yeah, he's not even built that way.
First of all, how does he shave?
I'm not even supposed to be here today. But yeah, that's I don't know what that was about. It looked pretty awful.
Yeah, the whole thing, the fact that they had to, why couldn't they have just alluded to Superman in other ways? And then this whole thing with the death of Superman and bringing him back and this leftover remnant of Batman v Superman, and the only thing they tried to do here, one of my takes is they tried to rectify the fact that Batman would have got his ass kicked in a real situation, and they just had to show it. And they had to just show that if Superman really wanted to, how badly his ass could have been kicked. Now, a lot of fanboys are like, yeah, but he'd have had kryptonite.
Because there is a scene where the Justice League actually, Superman does get brought back, a surprise to absolutely fucking no one.
Yes.
Not even midway through the movie. He's brought back very early on in the film.
Uh-huh.
And when he's brought back, there is a point where he kind of goes nuts, and the Justice League members have to take him on, and he beats the crap out of them, all of them. Batman included. Yes, that's right. Batman gets his ass whooped by Superman. And the whole scene was kind of made to show, hey, he's still Superman, guys.
Do you remember what happened in the comic book after Superman was defeated? Won't say killed, defeated by Doomsday?
You mean the funeral for a friend, that entire storyline?
Yeah.
Everybody mourned him?
But if you remember, correct me if I'm incorrect, they opened up, they tried to dig him up, and wasn't his body gone or something like that?
Yes.
because he went into super sleep or he didn't really die.
Cop out.
Well, fine. But that's smarter than what they actually did with the Frankenstein. That actually makes more sense because I thought 100%. I was like, they're gonna dig him up. He's already gone, and then he's gonna be like on the moon or something, like Dr. Manhattan, or I don't know.
Yeah.
That would make more sense to me that he was actually alive, but he had been watching just the destruction this whole time, and maybe he was like thinking, should I go back? You know, humanity hated me this much. I saved them. I gave them so much, but what did they try to do for me? That would make more sense.
Dude, that would have added depth. What's wrong with you?
You know what? You're right.
That would have actually added depth to this character. What's your problem?
It's a dead body, and
By the way, they brought him back in the most asinine way possible.
They open up the casket, and okay, Zod, well, he died. He had his neck snapped.
Yes, he did.
And his body looked like necrotic. It looked like it had.
It was pale. Yeah, it was like
yes, something. I mean,
I think
Henry Cavill is a beautiful corpse because holy shit.
I think they intentionally kept close-ups away from the body when they.
But even still, his hair was no different. It's like what?
I mean, he's Kryptonian, man. Even in death, I guess he's Kryptonian. Even though he was stabbed by kryptonite. You know, reasons.
Yeah, just reasons.
Just reasons.
And let's also talk about the that scene, which probably may be my favorite scene and also one of the worst scenes, which is kind of surprising to say.
Okay.
I love the Flash thing.
That was funny.
That was freaking hilarious because it also showed just how powerful Superman is, and I rarely get to see that in the right way on the big screen. It showed just like that turn that he did, like, dude, I see you.
It's like, yeah, when there's a scene where he's holding off, Superman is holding off the other members of the Justice League by himself, Cyborg, Wonder Woman, and Aquaman, and Flash starts running, and he thinks he's going to be faster than this dude and get a jump start off him. But they pan the camera back to Superman, and Superman's eyes are directly on him as he's moving.
Yeah.
And you can see the slow creep
Super
of,
sight.
oh, shit, come across Flash's face.
Yeah, he can see
Who can't
it.
stop running.
Yes.
And Superman's head starts to turn towards him at the speed that he's going, like, oh, yeah, I see you.
That was great.
And I do remember there was a point where I kind of wish the screen would freeze frame, and you just hear a narrator voice go, and at this moment, Flash knew. He fucked up.
He did. He did. That would have been great. But yeah, why the hell was he going crazy? So he understood, because I was like, okay, you know who they are, but then you woke up and you're like, oh, you know, it's you guys. You're probably here to kill me. And I'm like, but why the hell is he beating the crap out of them? You don't even know who these people are. And I know Cyborg's like
Cyborg is thing like
kind of went crazy, but it's like, come on, dude, like what are you doing?
It's like there were a lot of things said where they didn't want to bring him back because they didn't know if he'd be the same, and they didn't know what his reaction would be. Pet Cemetery, yeah, where he would just go insane or something like that.
I mean, like I said, you know, again, turning into a comic book guy. The only reason why the whole Doomsday thing happened in the comic
brief,
book,
right?
Brief. The only reason why that happened is if everybody remembers. Speaking, we'll be talking about the mouse later. But back in the day, Mickey Mouse, America loved him so much. And thought he was this pure good guy when really Mickey Mouse was a scoundrel and Steamboat Willie and a fighter and he was an adventurer and he was a guy that would do anything to win. He was like Bugs Bunny. You know what I'm saying?
By the way, real quick aside, just on that note, I dare anybody to go back and watch the old school Disney cartoons. And when I say old school, I'm talking about the same cartoons that were produced when the Looney Tunes cartoons first came out. Those cartoons for Disney are violent as shit.
And weird.
And completely weird. Watch the ones for Goofy in particular.
Oh, yes.
Those ones are kind of disturbingly violent. But you were saying, Fred.
Yes. And basically what they did was DC saw that the sales had dropped on Superman, but Superman was going to be their flagship guy. They were thinking, well, maybe we're to the point where we should be past Superman, and we're just going to... for a minute there, Mickey moved on and was just a masthead for Disney. They created Donald Duck that they could do all this madness with, and that was it. So that's why Superman was killed to start with. It's kind of like a gimmick, not only to sell comic books, but to say we're in a new age of comics without Superman. The Dark Age. Something that me and you talk about all the time when we say a generation came along that didn't appreciate
Superman.
They didn't deserve a Superman. We're full.
We were part of that clique for a little while. We fell into the dark ages of comics for a little bit.
Yeah,
too.
but I don't think we never hated Superman like other people.
We
We
always
always
found
had a
him
love in our
boring.
heart and appreciation for Superman and what he
found
represented.
him boring. We always found him like, you know, the always goody
Boring
two-shoes
is
guy,
fair, but did we ever have a
never
hatred?
hated him. We
No.
never hated the guy.
And you know what? At one point, his writing was boring. At one point,
Yeah.
it was bad.
That's
so that wasn't necessarily our fault. That was how they wrote him.
Yeah.
That's true.
And
With a
I will-
mullet.
And yes, and I will say that don't forget for a minute there, like in the 80s or whatever, you couldn't sell a damn Batman comic book before the Killing Joke came out.
That's
I mean,
true.
Literally, I walked in a comic shop and somebody tried to give me one. They just put it in my pool. It's like, look, man, just take it. Just get it out of here.
Silver Age Batman was terrible.
Yeah.
I
Silver
remember
Age,
going to
everyone-
Paul's.
Silver Age, everyone was terrible.
There were some good ones,
There
but
was
it's
like,
like,
there were a lot of people in Silver Age that didn't survive.
but gosh, man, some of the if I can only remember some of the plots of the comic books. it was-
Condiment King.
The condiment, but it was just as corny as you could possibly imagine. It was like, where were they going with this?
All over the place. They couldn't find their feet.
Exactly. So, yeah, that scene in the film where he beats the crap out of the rest of the Justice League, I guess to reestablish dominance, was one of my favorite scenes and worst scenes. So,
Why was it worse?
I don't think it made any sense. I didn't like the fact that he wakes up and he has to beat the crap. I didn't think that they came up with a good enough reason for him to behave that way.
Yeah.
It just kind of
They just wanted to fight.
They wanted to show how strong Superman is, so they had to beat the crap out of Wonder Woman. And it's like, wait a minute, okay, the last thing that you knew of this woman, if he actually did understand and he knew what was going on, like you mentioned, okay,
was that she saved their life when like they fought
Exactly.
together.
And you know, they also had to reestablish that hey, he can beat up Batman. He's strong enough to beat up a demigod in Diana.
Right.
And I don't know that he's just a badass again, I guess. And so I didn't like that. I didn't really feel like that.
You
made
felt like
sense.
that scene was cool, but it was absolutely there's
Yeah,
no
it was
reason
just
for
unnecessary.
It. There was no reason. I get it.
The way I think they should have handled it is if you're gonna bring him back in a Frankenstein way, you like. I mean, come on, man. If you wake up out of bed, if somebody disturbs you in your sleep, right, and they startle you, I might
You're
punch
just
you in the
throwing punches,
face.
yeah.
Yes,
You're
I'm
just
just throwing punches. I'm thinking like that would have been a better way to wake him up. You just wake him up and he starts whooping ass. Yes, you done woke him up. You know what I'm saying?
Because he wakes up and he flies straight to his own monument.
Yes.
Where the last place where the fight started between him and
Yes.
not Doomsday.
Yeah.
And yeah, you kind of think his memory is jogged, and everybody's just waiting to see, hey man, are you okay? Are you back? And then they just start going at it for no particular reason.
Yes, it's like, you know. At least I give him hood points because he's fighting with his shirt off. That's what we do. He's outside fighting with the shirt off.
Because you have to have a shirtless scene with Superman at least once per movie,
Yeah,
at least.
exactly.
For no other reason they could.
And a poor kissing scene with that guy.
Oh God, another pro. Another con. Holy Lord, his acting in some of those scenes were really bad.
Can we all say it together?
Yes, ma'am. It's like a robotic.
Oh,
character.
you're talking about
John Wayne.
John Wayne, yeah.
It's like he's a robotic
Grump.
John Wayne. There was a point after the scene where he tries to be. They tried to have a really tender moment between him and Lois Lane on the farm, on the Kent's old farm, which is sold or not sold. I don't know. His clothes are still there. And it's.
Batman bought it.
Oh man, it's really awful. It's really fucking bad.
They just don't have chemistry. I
They
noticed
got
that.
no chemistry. It was like so forced. It was
Yeah.
so forced that scene was.
And you don't have to actually love each other, but just something. There has to be some sort of spark.
It's called acting,
to
darling.
make us believe it, and we just never believed it with that actress and Henry Cavill.
It was just really
Amy
off.
Adams.
It was really off. And I'm sorry, this woman. I know how much you hated the Lois Lane from Superman Superman Returns.
Yeah.
This one's worse.
I don't think
This
so.
one's worse.
Ba-
I'm sorry,
I
this
think
one's worse.
I think that this woman's a better actress than Kate Bosworth. There's no question of that. Maybe the films are worse. And I think that's why you're probably saying that. The films are probably worse, yeah.
I feel like there was
But there's
no
nothing
chemistry
to-
between them. There was nothing to them at all.
I agree with that. But with Kate Bosworth, there's literally I think the acting was worse and she's just boring. With this, she just probably shouldn't be in the movie. Because I don't know, it just find someone that they have some sort of connection or something, because this is just you're not helping. You're not making him relatable at all. It's like they're trying. I think a Superman hater makes these
I
films.
think so. I really think so.
I think it's
somebody who
directed
just
by
hates
your buddy.
it
by,
hates Superman. Somebody
Yeah,
hates.
Frank Miller directed
Oh
this.
God. if that were the case, Superman would never say anything intelligent. Period. Like he'd just be delivered to grunts or some shit. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe Frank Miller had some say in it, but they're definitely not doing any favors for the character of Superman or showing off the fact that the guy is more an in-depth character than they've been portraying him to be ever since Man of Frickin' Steel.
I will say the kiss that was like Vin Diesel. When the two tried to show affection. You know how Ben Diesel's horrible kiss in Triple XL.
Oh God!
I don't even remember.
Triple XL. I don't even remember that.
When you just like when
their faces just smushed together.
Yeah,
that's all it is. Like it wasn't really a passionate kiss.
Yeah, it's like I didn't quite understand what was going on. I was like, I don't know. I'm like, what am I looking at? And
you felt uncomfortable.
Yeah, and it just felt like you said.
You didn't think, you just thought. Ugh.
Yeah, it's like you didn't know what's going on. This guy has been awkward the entire time. I'm like,
yeah, and it's not a Clark Kent awkward. It's not an
just,
adorable awkwardness.
Yeah, it's just like, dude, this guy has a six-pack and he can walk around. It's like it's almost. You remember on Ghostbusters how they tried to get the guy that was supposed to be the hunk. And he's just dumb, and he's just like a dumb hunk character.
That's it, yeah.
That's basically they've almost got this robot hunk character now. It's almost like that bad wrestling group that we watch. They're supposed to be like the Fabulous ones.
You dropped the bomb on me, sir.
Yes, they're supposed to be Chippendale dancers and sexy, and they were just like they were trapped. You could see the suffering in their eyes.
Yeah, you could see the pain. Like you could. I don't know. I think they were forced there. That they were kidnapped and they were forced to take these pictures.
Yes.
Just like we were kidnapped and we were forced to watch these DC films.
Yeah. Oh, somebody told them the ladies are going to love this, and midway through you could see it in their eyes. They didn't buy it. They didn't believe it.
I don't think that's what they were thinking. There was a certain group that would really enjoy it.
That's true.
But not necessarily.
Not the one they wanted. Not the one they were going for. But another kind of this film that seems to be that they love to do in all of these movies so far is have a really weak villain. Steppenwolf, who is supposed to be the herald of Darkseid, who is supposed to be like Darkseid's hunter, and who they alluded to a little bit in some of the hidden scenes from one of the deleted scenes from Batman v Superman. Do you remember anything that this fucking dude said? Does anyone?
Not really. I was slightly interested at first, but that's only because he was fighting the Amazonians.
Yeah.
And after that, I just kind of thought of him like every other CGI villain.
You checked out.
I just checked out. I didn't really care. I knew he was extremely strong. I wanted to see a scene with Darkseid. I thought, okay, he's gonna have some scene where he's at the foot of Darkseid and he's saying,
he's talking to someone.
I won't fail again, Master, or something like that. Where it's like
we were hoping for an end credit scene like that, or something where they allude to Darkseid.
It never came, so it's like I didn't need this guy.
There's one line. There's like he just says for Darkseid at one point in the movie once,
and they really need to do something at this point. They really need to just. So I'm like, give me something, and they didn't. They didn't. They just
if you're gonna go forward, guys. If you're gonna go forward, then go forward. But it's like,
let's not only talk about his acting, but just how terrible some of the scenes in this film look. Just from I don't know, just the effects. They just look cheap.
Yeah. It looks like it was a rushed reshoot. That's what it looked like. Kind of like what it was.
Almost green screen.
Yeah, and again, they did the whole world-ending thing with I don't know what was going on with the parademons and the mother boxes, and
then the one family that I wanted them to die. I actually wanted that one family to die because I'm like, why are you here? Why did you get trapped? You saw that something was going on, but yet you're still here. Kill them, please, kill them. We don't want to see them anymore.
They left that one family. They kept going back to that one family for the whole movie. Because they just needed some innocent people, I guess, for you to have some sympathy for, and that's really it. And it's like, that was friggin' pointless. It was really pointless.
The key is they were trying to give us something to care about.
No, it didn't work.
It didn't, because they knew if the character, you can't tie them in with characters that will go cheap. We'll try to give you a family to care about. Remember how they pulled that with the black family in Wolverine?
Yeah, yep.
Like it was a horrible.
Well, they slaughtered them. They slaughtered horribly.
They get killed, but
they got killed. The black family dies, but the white Russian family is okay.
Yes,
they were.
Now here's the thing that really gets me though about the whole situation. I care about the Amazons. I cared when Steppenwolf was fighting the Amazons.
Yeah.
because we're vested into them.
We know about the
We know
Amazons.
about the
We
Amazons.
have a
We see
whole
how-
movie about them.
And look how bravely the way they were dying and the way they seemed to care about each other, the way they were giving their lives.
Yeah.
You're just sitting up here like, dude.
Yeah,
It's like
That's the only time I care.
You know, you're flinching every time someone dies. You're like, oh God. You know,
Yeah,
I'm like,
yeah.
oh my God. You know, but then after that, it's just like, okay, where am I
we
at? What's going on?
we have nobody else in this film to care about except maybe Batman and Superman, and even then, you guys didn't do a great job of establishing those characters. So it's like,
No.
let's put an innocent family in here to try to pull the heartstrings. It didn't work. It didn't work. We're all just sitting there wondering like, why are they still alive?
And you know what? I hate to do this. It's not right, but I guess I have no other choice. Okay, when you think of these Marvel movies, when you think of the Avengers, especially with the Avengers, the first Avengers film, the scale of it was much larger. There were like, you could see crowds of people.
Oh, yeah.
You could see, it was just a larger scale film. With this, didn't the scale of the film seem small?
It felt
just-
that way, yeah. It
it
didn't
just
feel
seemed
big. It
tiny.
didn't feel quite so large as it should have been.
No, and this is a Justice League movie.
Yeah, yeah.
And I felt like Wonder Woman was bigger. I felt like there were so many
Yeah,
other films
yeah.
that were just there was so much more going on. I know, okay, reshoots, but you could pull out more than just one family to make me care. You know, come on.
They tried very much to shoehorn some stuff in. Superman carrying the building full of people later on. During that whole scene, it didn't work. It didn't work. It didn't really make you invested. It didn't really. You didn't feel the scale like of this Avengers movie. Hell, even Age of Ultron felt huge. And that's probably the worst Marvel film to date, I will say. But at the same time, they didn't give you a good sense of scale. They kept trying to say, "Oh, he's going to conquer this entire planet." They gave you some sense of it in the beginning when you saw all of these different creatures
They
fighting
did.
together.
I felt like that
And Green
type
Lantern
of
made
scene,
Green Lantern made a cameo
He
in
did.
that. A Green Lantern made a cameo.
Yeah, some green. He's from Earth S or something.
Yeah, exactly. He
But-
was Birdface.
Yeah, bird face.
He's a Birdface Green
They're
Lantern.
actually not birds. That's extremely prejudiced. What you're saying? They look similar to what we call birds.
For crimes against the Bird Nation.
The Bird Nation.
Yes.
Yeah, you're right, man. That should have been, it should have been a larger scene.
And here's the thing that kills me about that is that for all of their fucking all of their bluster for all of the movies they tried to make a super large scale for Suicide Squad. They tried to
They
make
did.
a super large scale for
That
all
felt
of
like
those
a bigger
movies.
scale.
And Suicide Squad felt like a bigger scale than a Justice League movie. And that is very wrong.
What was Batman's plan in this movie?
Apparently to die?
To be a decoy?
The thing is that the way that they had it set up, another Batman character flaw from this one is that apparently because he felt responsible. By the way,
Batman is responsible.
He is responsible.
He definitely is.
He
Most
is
of the time,
responsible.
the hero feels responsible because he's supposed to protect everyone.
Oh, no,
but
he is.
Really
He
spent an entire movie
Spent
trying
that
to
movie
kill.
murder Superman. Yes.
Yeah, so it's his fault.
And he felt responsible because he
Because
was.
he should be.
For Superman's death, and they allude in the movie that there's a lot of crime that just that skyrocketed after Superman was gone. Which, by the way, doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me because go back and watch Batman v Superman. There's no establishment of him being a people's hero at
No.
all. There's no establishment of that. So
Everyone
that
hates
makes
him.
no sense to me.
Everyone hates
They
him.
held up signs and effigies that said "Alien, go home." If anything, it was like it showed that all the people didn't like Superman. They hated his guts, from what it sounded like. They didn't show any like fan crowds or anything. So they tried to 180 that in this movie
This film is like it's trying as hard as it can
to make up for past
yeah,
mistakes.
to make up for
It's
everything
trying to make up
that
for
happened.
all of the bad shit that they've done, and they're trying to do it in record time. So, all in all, I would say that movie, they tried to do a lot of that in record time. It did not work out. The fight scenes were okay, I guess, between Steppenwolf and the League.
They were manageable.
They were manageable. Definitely nothing to write home about.
Nothing that I really recall that really sticks out in my mind. Even in Batman vs. Superman, there was a scene that I constantly watched with Batman in the warehouse.
Oh, the warehouse fight scene. Yeah, everyone
that was
loved
an
that.
excellent scene.
Everyone loved
I
that.
hate the fucking movie, but it was an excellent scene.
Yeah.
So
And
didn't have that in this film.
it was all of the fight scenes were just so CG'd and everything, and it was just you didn't care. You weren't invested. You weren't invested when you saw these people fight.
Yeah, and I'm going to even say, like, another character that I kind of appreciated a little bit with Cyborg, with them not taking, it's hard to develop Cyborg because they never really did, and they still haven't in the comics. Basically, him being the man machine monster. I don't want to be this Ben Grimm, the classic tragic hero type thing, trying to figure out what you are. Didn't even feel connected. Like, I know what this story is, and like, you know, when you do it right, like if Marvel doesn't get Ben Grimm right with this next time, their ass. I'm telling you,
they have someone bigger to answer to.
I'm telling you,
they have someone much bigger to answer to. But we're getting that. We're getting to that news.
But I'll say, you know, at the end of the day, I didn't even feel that.
Yeah, they didn't do a great job as characters.
Funny, you know, I'm gonna say this. I like a few little takes they did on him where they kind of gave him a little bit more power with the mother box and all that other stuff, and pushed him toward technology. They took a play out of my book, but other than that, that's it.
And I mean, I'll say this on the characters. The only two characters I really felt anything for, even though they didn't do a whole lot with them, was Cyborg and the Flash. Yeah. Those are the only two people that really showcased any personality. And I will say a pro here. One, it doesn't redeem what they've done with Aquaman. It doesn't. Not one damn ounce. However, the scene with him sort of having that confession
that was
towards
fun.
the group,
that was another
when he just starts
scene.
saying, "I think we're all gonna die." You know, I feel really insecure about all the stuff that's going on and all what's happening, and they point to him, and he's like, he's got the lasso of truth wrapped around his wrist.
I think that was well written, but it was just
a funny scene.
The performance, him performing it was just okay, but it was like a great joke. You ever seen someone writes a great joke for someone, and it's like you can't fail with this, and he just did an okay job of delivering it.
Yeah.
So you couldn't fail.
And that goes back to Jason Momoa being horribly miscast for this part. I hate that they cast him for this because they're trying so fucking hard. Man, just give him a different contract for Lobo. Give him do a Lobo movie. He'll knock that out of the park. He will absolutely nail that role because that role is for him. I can
give you better badasses if you want a better badass. I mean, this guy was basically picked because he was from Game of Thrones, and that's why he was picked.
And he has an 8-pack. You know, there's that, and he's hot. He's a hot guy, and they need a hot guy to overcompensate.
I talk to girls; they like him. You know what I mean? So,
I mean, overall, my impression of Justice League, I gave it a basically, I think, 6.5 out of 10.
Yeah. I have 4 or 5, something like that.
Just 4 or 5.
On a good day, I'll say 5.
Yeah, I'm gonna hang around 5 just because they actually did a movie.
It was a movie. That was it. That's all we can say.
Yeah, it was a movie.
It was a movie. It was a film that you may not necessarily regret seeing, but you're probably not going to go see again.
Yeah, Coco is better.
So, moving on from that one. Okay, I think we're going to go into our next review, which is going to be for Star Wars The Last Jedi.
Yes.
And this film is definitely going to have some high praises for us, not just because I'm a Star Wars nerd, but because Brandon, being the Star Trek nerd that he is, loved it as well. I make fun of you for that all the time, but I know just like we're hybrids.
I can like Star Wars. You like Star Trek, right? Do you like Star Trek? Okay, all right then.
I do.
Hold on.
I do. You know us Star Wars fans, man. We have to pretend. We have to pretend like we don't. We have to pretend like we don't.
Not me. You said it, not me.
The fan base said it. The fan base said it before I did.
I always give Star Wars fans credit. I know that there are a lot of arrogant Star Wars fans.
We're dicks. There is no getting around that. We are douchebags when it comes to the fandom.
I give up. Fuck it, yeah. They're assholes.
I'm sorry, man. I am a Star Wars fan, and even I'll be the first person to admit we are douchebags when it comes to this franchise. We are. A lot of times.
And I've had to say that, like, the worst part about the Star Wars franchise is the actual fandom. Star Wars fandom is one of the worst fandoms in all of fandom. And I say that as a person who's been a part of the fandom. And I had to step away. It's just that serious. I had to step away.
And we'll lead into that.
Yeah.
That's a great lead in, as a matter of fact, to The Force Awakens, being the movie that it was. A lot of us complained that it was just A New Hope 1.5. And it kind of was. It was the same premise. It was the same type of setup. It was the same type of plot. It was just maybe a bigger Death Star. But this one really, this is not, the way that even the screen crawl started off was, I started getting shades of Empire Strikes Back already. Because it starts off with a screen crawl of them saying, oh, the Rebel base has been discovered, the Empire is on their way, or the First Order is on their way to destroy the base and they have to escape. I'm like, this is starting to look way too familiar, way too fast, all over again. But right away, the film starts off in a different way, that they are evacuating, that they're already evacuating the base. It's not going to be the first few minutes of them just trying to get away from the base. And it starts off with a hilarious bit from Poe Dameron making a stand against a dreadnought Star Destroyer.
Yeah.
And
which was actually, it was funny, but it was also very emotional just to see how many of those
bombers,
rebel ships,
like the rebel ships.
were destroyed. Man, that was pretty difficult to watch on a lot of levels.
I have to say, this entire movie really was can be titled "The Last Jedi" and the rebellion gets his ass whipped. Because that's what happens in a lot of
Last
movies.
Jedi, you're going to learn about loss.
Exactly.
Because we had to learn about loss.
We had to learn about loss quite a bit. This movie really hits you in the feels right away in a lot of different ways. And let's start off with that. Let's just start off with the rebels. I would say they established this back in Rogue One, but for the longest time in all of these movies, we didn't really feel much for the rebellion except, they're the good guys, the Empire the bad guys. They kept it very simplified. But they really put the war in Star Wars in this movie, in my opinion. For the sole fact that it made you, every single rebel ship that got blasted out of the sky, you felt for them. You felt bad about that when you saw it happen.
With Rose's sister, you really felt like a connection to her. They made sure that they showed you the necklace that she wore. And so instantly you knew when you met Rose that, okay, that was her sister. So that's why she's crying.
Right.
So you really see that side of it, which you really don't, because something that I would take away from the original Star Wars movies without being murdered is that sometimes they didn't have enough. They didn't
watch your mouth, Brandon.
It's kind of like, when you really think about what happened with Alderaan, it just kind of happened like so.
It doesn't hit. There's no emotional hit.
No, there's no connection
emotional punch.
to it. But
it was a big evil thing that the bad guys did, and that's really all.
I think they're doing this better. They're connecting you to death better in the second trilogy.
Oh yeah.
Third trilogy.
And in this case, they showed you a lot of the ships that were destroyed. They even showed you the consequences of what happened. Like, we see ship battles happen all the time. This is the first time we've actually seen there be a noticeable body count. Like, General Leia slapped the crap out of him when he got back and, said, but we took out that dreadnought. And she says, but at what cost? We lost damn near half our fleet and all our bombers on that run. And they give you a noticeable hit. Like, yeah, man, we don't have a lot of fighters here. And we just lost them just destroying one ship. They're just rebels.
Yeah, and they put the war, like Rogue One put the war in Star Wars to remind us of what the cost of this is. Because for a minute there, we were still kind of left over with a death here, a death there, almost in a...
Many Bothans died to bring us this information.
Yeah, that's right.
But you never know who those Bothans are. You never see their story. You never find out what they sacrificed to get there.
Exactly.
But Rogue One changed the game.
Exactly.
You saw the sacrifice.
You're seeing the sacrifice for every single one.
And therefore, like I said, that's one thing that I really loved about this movie, The Last Jedi. It actually is pulling away from some of just the childhood nostalgia that I think that's really there's several things I feel like it's burning a lot of these fanboys' butts. But one of the things is the fact that people have an unrealistic expectation of things in their head, of what they think a Luke Skywalker is, of what they think a Jedi is, of what they think this is. They've grown to think certain things about these characters that just ain't real. And it would make them boring, actually. If they were what they think they are, then they would be boring ass characters. It would be the exact same problem we have with Superman.
And let's go into that. That's a great segue, as a matter of fact, to the next portion of this. Is that I believe my words were after I saw this film is that this tears apart the Star Wars sort of faith, the Star Wars faith, in the most amazing way possible to me. And that actually is a great segue into Luke. Luke Skywalker is Luke Skywalker's big return that everyone has been waiting 30 years for to see happen. And it is how do I put this? In terms of story, it is a less than illustrious return, because this is an old, haggard, broken Luke Skywalker that no one was kind of expecting. Everyone wanted him to be the wise and old master and wanted to be the do no wrong hero that he always was. They wanted him to be Yoda.
They wanted him to be Yoda.
They wanted him to be Yoda. They wanted him to be that guy. But or Obi-Wan, either one. Everyone had this prediction of what Luke Skywalker was going to be like, and this entire movie completely shattered those beliefs and those expectations. And a lot of people liked it. A lot of people didn't.
And this room, we were fine with it. We were fine with it. It didn't seem cheap. It didn't seem like it was forced in any way. Like they were just trying to say, okay, well we're gonna pull your heartstrings here and make you feel sad for Luke.
Right.
No, he's like any other person. He made mistakes. He as bad as you could make any, the mistakes he did.
I talked to Jason about that, by the way.
Yeah.
Another good friend of mine who is an even bigger Star Wars fanatic than I am, who I knew, he's one of that group that I knew would either love or hate this movie because he is so enamored with the original trilogy.
The idea of Luke.
He's enamored with the idea of Luke.
Which he also mentions. That if you think about it, I think if you remember the first three episodes, wouldn't the Jedi kind of feel this way about everything that happened? The fact that they were so overconfident and they didn't see what would happen with the clones, and they didn't.
In the novelization, that's actually what goes through Yoda's mind as he's fighting Sidious. Is that when he's fighting Sidious and he thinks, do I stand a chance against this guy? And the realization hits him, I never stood a chance. This fight was over before it began. He's won. Regardless of what happens in this fight today, he has won. Our order is wiped out. His empire is in place and he's taken over. He checkmated us a long time ago before I even got here. And
Order
that was
66.
a big part of it. It was Order 66.
But so, okay, in that way, wouldn't Luke then view the Jedi in that way? Wouldn't he also say, you know what, if you really think about it, look at what we've meant across the galaxy. Look at all of the death and the destruction and all of the things that have happened.
And he says that in the movie. He's like, we allowed, Darth Sidious to gain power and the Empire to maintain control because we were so arrogant in our ways. And I think that was a great little part of it, of the brokenness of Luke Skywalker that added to it.
And then when you look at it, like I said, it humanizes the character. It humanizes when you make something so perfect, and he's got to be what we call the classic, like I'm unblemished or my blemish is fake hero. That is problematic.
There was a specific name for that type of character. I think that you used to talk about.
A Mary Sue.
Yeah. Yes.
Mary Sue, the one that Rey is right now.
Yes, that type of character. Yeah, and you really don't want that type of a character to be your Jedi. And something else I point out to people, when you look at the end of the first series, like when we look at Empire Strikes Back, but Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
That was the end of Anakin's story arc.
Yes.
Luke did not save the universe. Anakin fixed as best he could.
He fulfilled his destiny.
He fulfilled his destiny.
Okay. It was true. They said he would be the one to bring balance to the Force, and he did. He killed Sidious.
He did it.
Luke would be a charred corpse right now.
First.
No, I agree with you, but it's kind of like one of those George Lucas things. Like, technically, he threw Darth Sidious down the hole and balanced the universe.
But
that is what happened.
He did. Okay, he did while destroying the universe. After destroying the universe, he brought balance to it.
The entire.
But he had to. That's the whole thing. Not only Darth Vader comes from Doom.
The entire series. Let's face this. The
know.
entire series was about Anakin's rise to the light,
Yes.
his turn to the dark side, his fall, and his redemption.
Yep.
That's what the whole story up until Return of the Jedi was about. We've gotten rid of that. We're doing this for new characters right now.
Yep.
And I think it's doing it in the greatest way possible. Is that they're really killing off the old lore to make way for these new stories and new characters, which is great. And to go ahead and bring a spoiler out here for you. The big reason why Luke Skywalker is a broken old man is he did train Kylo, formerly Ben Skywalker, and he says that there was a moment where he sensed how much dark side was inside Kylo, and he said in a moment, the line from the movie was in a moment of pure instinct, I thought I needed to snuff it out right then and there.
Yeah, he had the murder eyes.
He had the murder eyes going on.
Luke murder
he was
eyes.
about to kill Kylo Ren in his sleep with his lightsaber.
Yes.
Horrible way to kill somebody, by the way.
Yeah.
But he came out of it. He said, in the last moment, I came to my senses. It left me as quickly as it came, and then all I was left with was staring into the eyes of a frightened child.
But that's not how Kylo saw it.
No, it isn't. That is not how Kylo saw it. And then that's another thing that I love about this is that Kylo's reasons for turning to the dark side kind of made sense.
Yeah.
Like, this is his uncle that he trusts and loves and respects, and he's about to murder me. He's about to murder me in my
because
sleep.
of what I might become.
Because of what I might be.
And if you're a teacher, aren't you supposed to prevent that? Aren't you supposed to sense that dark side and say, I have to keep him on the right path?
You're supposed to, but this was a fuck up of massive proportions. And going back to my friend Jason, who is the huge Star Wars fanatic, he had no problem with Luke becoming the old haggard, don't want to be a part of the fight anymore thing. His issue was that he felt like this turn was too dark. His analogy for it was literally, look, man, it's bad enough that I see my favorite sports hero after his retirement become a fat loser of a nobody. I don't need to know that he beats his kids too. You know, that was his analogy for it. But I felt like that's exactly what it was.
I didn't think that Luke was a fat loser. I thought that he became a wise guy. I mean, he was a wise.
That was just the analogy that he used.
He was a wise mentor more than the fat loser, man.
That was just the analogy to use. He didn't mean it quite in that way. He just that's what he's talking about.
Exactly like that.
But he's saying that he felt like the turn was too dark. Like he felt like him coming and kill Kylo was too dark.
I think in that way, if he had enjoyed it, then I would view it that way. If he had enjoyed, if
his eyes turned yellow or something, and then then
if he had enjoyed, possibly killing Kylo, and he was like, the moment I saw you, I wanted to kill you, then I'd be like, all right, that's too dark. That's not Luke.
But this is the thing is that you know what I believe, and even Mark Hamill has gone on record as saying this is not my Luke Skywalker. That he felt like that turn wouldn't have happened and Luke wouldn't have given up. But I feel like that's a fuck up of massive proportions. That's what would make Luke Skywalker give up the fight. That he says, you know what, man, I'm out. I've screwed this up so bad. I have pushed him into the hands of the enemy. He has now become one of their biggest assets and their rise to power. I think I need to just take myself out of this. I screwed up too bad.
I would have to even ask Mark Hamill this question, and I would ask everybody, what Luke Skywalker have you been looking at for all these years? I mean, because the one I remember that Yoda was having to hit in the head with that stick.
Well,
now you trying to tell me that
not the quickest learner.
Exactly, not the quickest learner, and
kind of stubborn on his own part too.
Yeah, that's it exactly. And you're also a human being.
Yeah,
things affect you. That's why I said this whole thing, like you made this character like something like he was so transcendent before.
I felt like even Mark Hamill has fallen in love with the lore.
Yes. And think about it, that's what the character mentions. Luke actually mentions that in the movie because he was like, of course I could do it. I'm Luke Skywalker. Like he talked about that legend.
Yeah,
thing,
he said
right?
no. Yeah, he basically he's like Rey is asking him to come back to the fight, and he's basically saying, "Oh, let me guess, you heard about the immortal Luke Skywalker. What am I supposed to do? Walk in front of the entire First Order with my laser sword and face off against an entire army?" And starts basically
it seemed like he was talking about the idea of a character becoming so big that you almost begin to believe in your own hype.
Yeah,
and you think that you could do something that you can't.
And that's essentially, I feel like in that moment, Luke Skywalker is kind of talking to the audience as well. Because that's a moment where he's literally breaking the idea of the immortal, do no wrong farm boy who came and destroyed an entire evil empire, supposedly on his own. And just like he's breaking it down to Rey, hey, I'm not perfect. I had some bad stuff happen too. He's kind of breaking it down for all the fanboys out there too and saying, hey, dude, Luke is still human. Luke is still a flawed character. He still has some stuff that he doesn't know how to do.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people fall for that. It's just like in real life how we fall for the great man of history type thing, and that makes them feel like there's something that we're not. But we're all the same when it comes to we all struggle with something, and those who choose to overcome what they struggle with and still do it anyway, there's something to be said about them, and that's something that all of us can try to emulate because you all struggle with it. And that's what makes that's a much more interesting character. Even when you go to the depths, to pretend like the depths aren't there, it's bullshit.
It's a much more interesting character, but I think everybody's problem, it's the same. It's the Superman syndrome, I like to call it.
Yeah.
Nobody likes to see their hero have flaws.
Yeah.
Nobody likes to see their hero have flaws. Yeah. Nobody likes to see their hero, has issues of their own and that they had to overcome, which I think that gives them so much depth. And it's like, hey, he's got flaws, but he overcame them.
Yes.
But everyone has this picture in their head that they want to stay pure.
And which is weird to me because you end up creating those 1950s one line, like that's why I don't like the whole notion of when they say the dark side of the Force and the light side of the Force. The way I always saw it is this is something that's just basically within both Jedis
and Sith
and Sith, and one is just using it like, and that's what Luke is realizing. Like it's both within you, it's all you. And you're trying to figure it out. I think Adventure Time has done a better job explaining this than anything else.
Mace Windu was kind of always on the line, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
He's great.
Yeah.
You're supposed to get to the point where you're gray.
Yeah.
And that's supposed to, the balance in the Force is that. Like you understand, like you don't run from your inner demons. You don't bear your inner demons. You almost embrace them enough where you can, There was actually the very last episode of the Clone Wars animated series actually goes over. And I thought this was a great piece of lore, and I really hope Disney doesn't get rid of it. But it's actually a great piece of lore that actually goes over the very last episode of the Clone Wars is about Yoda learning how to project himself after he's dead. It's literally him going for one last piece of training to find out how he can become a Force ghost. But it was a really good episode in the sense that it showed you Yoda in learning mode.
It showed you Yoda as a Padawan again, that you've never seen him before. The wizened old Jedi Master that everyone believed could do no wrong, and he was reduced back down to like knowing nothing at all. And there's a portion of it where in the last part of the episode, he actually has to face his literal dark side. Like there is a dark, ghostly version of Yoda that he has to fight and figure out what it is that hits his darker side, and he embraces it at the very end. He figures out, he keeps trying to destroy it, and it just makes him stronger, and he ends up embracing it, and that's how he becomes one of the greatest Jedi Masters that ever lived. Mm-hmm. Another pro I have to name, speaking of Yoda, they brought back the Muppet.
That was awesome.
And Frank Oz. That was the actual voice, Frank Oz, of Yoda. And they brought back the Yoda Muppet for a Force Ghost scene, and that was good? Amazing. It looked so great.
Didn't it look like an actual thing there?
It was something. There were some people there are some people who still like, man, I don't know, that CG looks really weird. They're so used to
serious?
it. They're so used to it. There's some people saying like, man, there's something off about that CG. It looks really strange. It looks cool, but it looks really strange.
It looks like it's actually there.
You know, maybe they're trying to do something new with it.
But yeah, when I saw that, that's the moment in the movie that made me kind of lose. I was like, man, that's a puppet. Like
that's like an actual Muppet.
I'm like actually hitting the dude next to me, like, man, that's a puppet.
Man. I'm like, dude, is that a Muppet right there? Man, like a real thing.
Like I couldn't believe it. I was like, damn. And that's sad that I've been reduced to that.
Yeah, it is.
It's sad that I'm reduced to being excited about seeing a practical effect.
Yeah.
Now, you know, I know people from this generation that they love CGI so much they didn't like the puppet.
Oh my God! Wow.
Yeah, I've had to
argue. Are you shitting me, sir?
Yes, I've had to argue with people about this. Wow. I've had to argue, and it broke my soul.
I feel so sorry for those two.
Do you remember episode 1 and 2, Yoda man? Tell me which one looks better. I guarantee you they won't say.
No, this is this generation.
That is fucking stupid. That is insane.
Man, episode 1 and 2 Yoda did not age well.
No, they didn't. Nothing about those films aged well.
It's the tight pants they're wearing in the drugs.
Oh my God.
They love the CGI. Yoda.
It's cut off the circulation.
Yes.
To their mind.
Yes. All in all, I will say the reappearance of Yoda, by the way, was one of the biggest highlights of the movie to me. And he's the same.
And he made a good point.
He's the same. There was a point where Luke is fed up. He's about to burn the ancient Jedi tree and all of the ancient Jedi texts inside. And I'm actually glad that he didn't do it. I'm glad he decided against it. I'm glad it was Yoda, who apparently can call down Force lightning even after death. That's the one thing I would say is kind of like, I don't know, is that a plot hole? Maybe, I'm not sure.
Well, I was going to talk about the Leia stuff, but go ahead.
But I thought that was still good that Yoda actually burns the tree instead and laughs about it. He's like, oh, the ancient Jedi text I have read, page turners they were not. And you know, he's still that same character. He's still that wizened old master who is like has got so much wisdom just brimming out of it. And he's like, yeah, man, everything in there is stuff that she already knows. You know, and
obviously
he's still teaching Luke lessons, like all of this stuff. He's still teaching him even after all this time.
And I think it gets to the point where when they start breaking down the Force, like the Force is what connects everything, and that's why they can do this stuff after death, and that's why they're still They're like beings that have they still are holding some of their own essence or what.
Yeah, they never. We don't really have a way to quantify the Force
exactly.
with what people can and can't do when they're alive or dead at this point.
Yeah,
kind of changes up with every movie sometimes.
Yes,
true. Depends on the writing.
Well, you know, looking at the Eastern philosophies and stuff, they've taken a lot of it from. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's very woo-woo. You get into the woo-woo aspect of it, then it can be anything.
Yes.
Moving on though, with that, I thought it was great to have him kind of come back. And I want to actually get your guys' opinion on the new characters of the series, and I'm not talking about just Rey and Finn, but also Rose.
Yes.
Rose, I think it's either Tico or Tycho.
We like
played
Rose.
By Kelly Marie Tran, who kind of plays sidekick to Finn in this movie for a bit, because this movie really belonged to Rey, Finn, Poe, and Rose. This was a lot of stuff for them that happened. The movie focused a lot on them because early on in the film, another one of our heroes kind of gets taken out, supposedly, with Leia. Because there's a scene where the bridge gets attacked. They're in the middle of a fight, and the bridge gets blown out, and Leia's on it at the time.
Okay,
by the way, I need to hold on. I need to say this.
Akbar's killed.
I need to.
Yeah.
Damn it! I'm going to say this. That's what I was going to say. Rest in peace, Admiral Akbar. Admiral Akbar was killed. So hey, you know,
It was a trap.
it was
that
a
hurt
trap.
That hurt.
It was a trap. It was a trap.
He tried to tell us all those times.
He tried to say it,
I
man,
felt
every
bad.
time.
I felt bad.
In Rogue One, no one else wanted to go take on that base except him.
Yes.
He said, "I'll go alone if I have to. I'll take my fleet with me, and we're gonna go do this
He
thing."
was a brave fish man.
He was to the very end. To
Yes,
the
he
very
was.
end, man. To the very end.
Yes,
so hey,
he was.
rest in peace, Admiral. You earned your hero's death.
R.I.P.
You earned your hero's death.
You're an OG.
he really was. But I'll say this: Leia gets blown out into the out of the bridge. And we think because of Carrie Fisher's death,
I'm just
we're
kinda-
thinking that's it. Like, okay, so this is how they're gonna kill her off.
And I'm really, by the way, I'm kind of like emotional at that moment because I'm like, man, this is tough. You know what
It's
I mean?
tough to
It's just
see.
it's really tough for me to
I guarantee
see.
that's tough for the entire audience to see when we saw that happen.
And then it was like, what the?
She starts to force pull herself back on the ship.
So I was like, what the? I was like, what?
Is she gonna survive? And she did. Like, she lived.
And I liked it, but I was just like weirded. I was like, what? She's using force powers now after all of this time?
And I'll say this. People say that's a plot hole, but I don't think it is. I
Okay.
don't think it is, and I'll say why. Because, guys, it's been 30 years between Return of the Jedi and The Force Awakens.
Sure.
It's been 30 freaking years since she found out she's related to one of the last remaining Jedi in the galaxy.
Exactly.
I think I think it would be foolish to believe that her, as a go-getter at the time, after seeing everything that Luke has done, after seeing and witnessing all of this stuff for herself, it would be very unwise of her to not say, I wonder if I can do some of this stuff.
I wonder if I can become more in tune with the Force.
I wonder if I've got any of these powers.
And this is what I think too. I think to send Carrie Fisher off once they got, since Luke is out of the story, I think she is going to have a deeper conversation with Rey, or something.
I would hope so.
Is going to be passed from Leia to Rey, as woman to woman, is going to be a little bit more substantial than what was passed from Luke to Rey.
I think so.
And I think that's where it's going to come from. She's going to kind of talk about
More
her
hatred from the
experience.
fanboys.
Exactly. More rage. Prepare
More rage.
yourself for rage.
Don't even care.
And so I think that's going to happen. Like, whereas Leah is probably going to express something where she's dealt with, and probably even talk more about Kylo Ren with her being. I think there has to be a comeuppance between mother, son, and what's going on with Rey. And all of that other stuff. And I think that is why she was allowed to survive. And they showed her force powers there. Because that, because that's going to be
She
the
tore down
last.
a door.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that's going to be a last connection of the Jedis.
And that's also going to be that's the last connection of the old to the new.
The old to the new.
That's literally
And
because Luke, spoiler alert in this one, Luke dies.
Well,
He becomes one with the Force.
Yes.
He becomes one with the Force in a very pivotal moment. So that's literally two of our legendary heroes down.
I'm one with the Force, and the Force is one with me. I'm the
one with the Force, and the Force is one with me.
Yes, he did it.
Yes.
But with that being said, I really do hope there will be, because this movie, another great pro for me is that this movie is filled to the brim with strong female characters that are not tropes, that are not annoying, which I think is an incredible thing. I will say this though, the one drawback I will take away from it is I'm way more invested and interested in Kylo than I am in Rey. Kylo is just much more interesting to me.
I'm not really. That's like the one female
That's the
character
one
in the
drawback.
movie that I'm not really that big on, to be honest with you. I don't hate her. I just don't care, and I don't know why. Maybe she's just boring the hell out of me because, like I said, I really just like the character Rose way more than her. I was just like, let me
Rose
see more of her.
Interesting.
Yeah, but maybe it's just because she's like the lead person in the film.
I think what it was is that Rose had more meat. Rose's story kind of had more meat to it.
Tough to think about
because it's like in that time they established, because there's a point where they go off and they're on a planet. By the way, again, putting war back in Star Wars, they showed that wherever war is happening, people are profiting from it.
Yeah.
And they went to the planet where all of these where the 1%
they
of
were
the galaxy
extremely-
stays.
Yeah, they were extremely well. They were like in a space bingo hall.
No, a casino, the space casino.
they were in Mount Brook, Alabama.
They were in Space Casino where all of the rich people clearly were.
Yes.
And they had to find some sort of expert code breaker. And Rose kind of went on a spiel about how she hated this place primarily because from wherever there's a war, there are people that profit from it. And those are the ones who never get touched by it. And she said, if I could, I'd smash this entire planet through, in one foul swoop. And you learn more about Rose in that moment than you do really about anything we know about Rey, which I think maybe they're holding back on that story to just to save you more.
And I will say the fanboys, they cried out about that because they're like, well, I felt like that Finn and Rey story was just unnecessary because, I can write good stuff.
Yeah.
With my writing skills of magic.
Yeah, because of course they don't want the token and the minority hire to get their own screen time.
Exactly.
We know why you're really upset, guys. We really do. And there's 4 corners to every room. Find one to go cry in. That's what I have to say.
Sometimes there are more than 4 corners.
Find one of them to cry in because that's where people will care. That's
go to an octagon and get beat up in that.
Exactly. But I think Rose was actually a really endearing character without being. She wasn't a Mary Sue. She was good at her job. She clearly had vulnerabilities. Her and Finn have a thing that's going on.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're going to make more of it. I don't know if they're going to to keep that going.
I hope so, man. That seemed believable.
Unlike it wasn't forced.
Unlike with Superman and
yes, man.
What about Rey though?
Okay, with Rey, they seem to have something going on between her and Kylo. No, they seem to have something more going on with her and Kylo, and I don't know if it'll keep going because there's that whole thing where they're being connected through the Force and they're learning more about each other, and they're not. And there's a point where she's crying. It's like I never felt more alone. He's like, you're not alone. I'm not sure
romantic though. I didn't sense romance. I sensed the sibling thing.
You sense the camaraderie.
Yeah, that's what I sensed. I sensed that they're connected and they don't know why they're connected because you can tell when it's a romance. And with that, I felt like there was a connection, but sometimes, it's just kind of like that.
Not about no Alabama situation.
Yeah, this is a different type of state. You never know. You know what I mean?
Getting more into it though, and getting more into it, I will say with going off on the Kylo. I really felt intrigued by his story. I'm invested. I'm very much invested because again,
I actually care.
He's pissed. He's pissed because his uncle tried to kill him and tried to murder him. But at the same time, I think I don't know if I'll count this as a pro or con. I need to ask your guys' opinion with what happened to Snoke.
Supreme Leader Snoke got what every asshole dad should get. Every asshole dad. I love that so much, man.
It was so funny.
It was orgasmic.
It was so funny how they took out Snoke.
Oh my gosh, that was great, man. I
love that freaking scene.
Because he was just, man, he really made me feel terrible, like how he belittled Kylo.
Yeah.
In the beginning of the film, and he ripped him apart. And I think the joke that you mentioned earlier about him saying that, you were bested by someone who had never used a lightsaber, and they made fun of the last movie.
Oh yeah. He was bested by somebody who never used a lightsaber before.
So they kind of poke fun at that.
So yeah, they did poke fun at that, and man, when Snoke got taken out, that was a great scene.
The way it happened, it was so wonderful. Which probably the best lightsaber scene I've seen since Episode 1.
That moment where they turned back there's a moment where both Kylo and Rey turned back to face off against Snoke's guards, and that to me counts as the most awesome moment in the film. To me, that counts as the most awesome in the film. The second most awesome moment was the hyperspeed battering ram.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Oh, yes.
That was amazing.
Yes.
That was pretty amazing.
That was great. And the fact that
The silence.
Yes.
Yeah, the silence and the fact that she did that. And my thing is, I just like, why couldn't we have done this earlier? But that's fine.
I have one negative about that.
Awesome scene, by the way. But God damn it, why didn't she just tell Poe what was going on? Because
that is a plot hole.
Like, look, and maybe she thought, okay, he's gonna try to stop me if I'm the person who's gonna stay back, and maybe he'll try to figure out some way around it. But this guy, that
whole side story with Finn and Rose was unnecessary because she did it. I wouldn't say unnecessary to the film. It was necessary for the information that they knew. But had she told them, had she divulged the information of what they were going to do, that actually would have saved them from having to go down and do all of that other stuff there.
I think we were supposed to learn more about Rose and see more Finn, so I guess it was necessary.
I think it was world building. It was world building.
But it's everything else. I'm like, gosh. And like I said, maybe he's gonna say, "Oh no, don't do this. I can find a way to destroy this without you having to sacrifice yourself." But man,
there was a lot there. There was a lot there, and
still an awesome scene.
Yeah, it was still an awesome scene. Very much an awesome scene. And the fact that it didn't just end there with them getting away and then went back to the planet. Man, this entire movie was the rebellion just kind of getting their asses handed to them.
It was really tough to watch.
It was tough to watch because then they figured out what their plan was. They started blowing up the transports. that were defenseless, that had no shields.
No
and
shields,
every single
no
one that was
weapons.
no shield, no weapons. And every single one of them, man, by the time they get down to the planet and you see how many of them are left, there's like 20 resistance members left.
And it
of
was
this
already
entire
kind of
thing.
torturous because I'm like, okay, this is what's going to happen with Leia. I have to watch this now. I'm like, I'm just kind of preparing myself because I'm like, and then the Luke hologram slash.
Yeah, there's, when all hope seems lost, Luke finally shows up and he does exactly what he said in the beginning. He faces off against the entire First Order army with his laser sword, which is an awesome scene, by the way. And
but
it
I
turns
noticed
out,
the beard. I was kind of like, what's
like
going
his
on?
hair had changed.
Yeah, his hair had changed. His appearance had changed. And I was like,
And he was also
oh.
using a lightsaber that was broken in a previous scene. Like, I don't know what's going on there.
So
Like,
yeah,
what's
I
happening?
was completely lost. I'm like, are they really? What's going on?
And
with
then the
this?
moment where where Kylo faces off against him and he's just dodging the whole time. They never clash sabers, and then you see why.
Yeah.
That he's
'Cause I'm like-
force projecting himself. He's basically like what is it? Astral projecting himself from a
Yes.
different world.
from the astral plane.
And he's just buying the resistance time. And I thought that was I applauded. I applauded because that was like when I saw the lightsaber go through him and he didn't pull an Obi-Wan like I thought they were going to do
Yeah,
with
that's
this
what
one.
I thought was.
Everyone
was
thought that's where they were going to. He was going to pull an Obi-Wan Kenobi. He was going to disappear in his robes, and that would be it. And then he like force ghosted through, and I'm like, they can't be serious. And I applauded. I applauded because I did not see that coming.
No,
Genuinely,
they
I didn't see
surprised
that
me.
coming.
They surprised me.
They surprised the crap out of me with that one. And overall, dude, I'm giving this film a 10. I got to give this film a 10 because it's like it did what no Star Wars film has done. It smashed every expectation I had. It surprised me at every turn. It kept me invested in all of the characters that were in the movie and everything that was going on.
I'm genuinely happy that you enjoyed it that much, man. I've always said this, man. Star Wars fans deserve films like this.
And
A
I
lot
feel
of
like
people,
we
a lot
got
of
it.
people don't like it, and that's fine. You know, everyone has an opinion. But I feel like Star Wars fans deserve this film. They deserve what's coming next because even the people who didn't like it have to acknowledge that you don't know what's going to happen next. And isn't that
And
a
that
good
is the
thing?
most exciting
Like,
thing. That is
isn't
the most
that
exciting thing I can think of.
amazing?
I have no clue what's going to happen next. I have no idea. There's
Who
no
knows?
theory I can come up
Maybe
with.
Rey turns to the dark side. How
It
awesome
could
would
happen.
that be?
It could fucking
that
happen.
was my favorite part of the film. When I was thinking, I was like, is she gonna be like a dark? Like I was
There was every
interested.
shot that it
I
could
was at
happen.
the edge of my seat. I was like, man, okay, this is what I'm talking about because I had a conversation with Fred about that earlier, and I was like, man. I was like, that would be interesting. I was like, you know what would be interesting if Rey ended up being like a member of the dark side or something. That would be interesting.
Yeah.
But I kind of spoke about it like they would never do that.
But we don't know. Now we don't know. We have no idea.
Oh, would they?
But what's your rating?
Oh yeah, I'm gonna give it like an 8.5, man. The reason why I'm not gonna give it a 10 is because I feel like I'm reserving that hopefully for the last movie.
Well, you're reserving that for the last
Yeah,
one?
I'm reserving it for the third film, but man, I really enjoyed this. Much better than Force Awakens.
Oh, yeah.
It was a pleasure. It was a pleasure. I truly enjoyed it.
Fred?
And I'm
For the non-Star Wars fan in the room, so to
yes,
speak.
I'm actually gonna give it a 9.
Wow.
So I got to give it a 9. And
Wow.
Like, see, I checked out on Star Wars after the first 3 movies. Cause see, I'm a person that I could have took the
Episodes 1 through 3 is what he's talking about.
Yes. Well, yes. I
We have to
checked-
specify.
exactly, because I checked out, and I'm with the first the 3 that was the original, the tie-in 4,
4, 5, and
4,
6.
5, and 6. I'm with those. So and Rogue One.
And Rogue One, yes.
Yes, Rogue One definitely. It fit
That kind of
perfectly.
brought a lot of people back, I think.
Exactly. So, and this kind of continued where Rogue One left off, and what they're doing, or how they're moving Star Wars in the future. I like the way it's going. I like change. I'm not one of those crazy people that want some kind of law. I don't live in my nostalgic past. I just didn't like those first 3 movies because they were just poorly done.
True. Now, so overall, guys, we love it. You got to see Force Awakens. You got to see The Last Jedi. It's an awesome film. It's an awesome Star Wars edition. Absolutely. Now, going into that, some news that we've been talking about that we'll see if we can run through here quickly. Speaking of a Disney-owned franchise, Disney is owning a lot of things as of late, aren't they? As of this recording, guys, Disney has purchased 20th Century Fox. I never in my mind, in my soul, ever thought it would happen. Guys, I need to say it. Marvel has the X-Men back. They have the X-Men. They have the Fantastic Four. There are actually a bunch of franchises they have, but it needs to be said first and foremost, the X-Men are home. They're home, Brandon. They've come home.
There were two men who dreamed a dream, a simple dream. Technically, it was like that for us, man. We used to just sit around and we would just dream about this moment. We would dream about the X-Men going home, actually getting to see, like, a film with the Night of the Sentinels and actually seeing what we saw in the 90s.
Heart of hearts, I'd given up, Brand. In my heart of hearts, man, I truly had given up.
To the left of me is a man who dreamed about seeing Doctor Doom, the real Doctor Doom, Victor Von Doom.
Yes.
Okay? He may weep. Jonathan and I actually have a bet that you're going to cry. That we think that you're literally going to shed tears, that you're not going to be able to hold it back when you see the actual real Victor Von Doom on the silver screen.
I might stand up and clap just because he makes his presence. I will stand up and clap in the theater, and they'll be like, "Hey, buddy, sit down."
Movie's not over yet, man.
Can you imagine, man, if someone actually tries to touch the person of Doom? And he actually, this is the real Doctor Doom.
If Marvel actually has the audacity to actually do a Doom film,
it's man, it's possible. It's possible now.
At that
it's
point,
totally possible.
I will let the mouse know I will personally remove the soul of every troll.
He will. It's no joke. It's no joke, folks. It's no joke. This man loves Victor Von Doom too. If you've seen any of our previous episodes, you already know.
We could just roll off a couple of ideas. How about this? How about I don't know. After Thanos,
they are going to need a big villain to pick up the slack after they're done with Infinity War.
Thanos collects all of the Infinity Gems. Well, who else but Doctor Doom? That belongs to Doom, does it not?
Of course it does.
Okay? He has to take possession of what is rightfully his.
And let's look at the fact that he has had the entire Infinity Gauntlet before.
Oh, yes.
And when he got it, spoiler alert, he did nothing maniacal. He actually
he fixed the galaxy. He fixed it. He actually fixed everything.
And the only reason he didn't do it was brilliant. Yeah.
And that would be that would be yes. That's all I can say is, you know what, man? I will say this. This is my hope right now, and this is what I'm thinking that the mouse is going to go for. Because let's face it, all of the people who started off with doing the Avengers, Robert Downey Jr. is saying that he doesn't want to do Iron Man anymore because he's been doing it for damn near 10 years now, and I get that. And I will say on top of that, there are a lot of actors in the.
He wants money.
There are a lot of actors though. Who once they've done a part for long enough, they've kind of said, "All right, I think I'm going to hang it up and say that." Now, once the Avengers are off the shelf, they will need a team to pick up the slack. That's got to be the X-Men. There is no team more deserving of getting their title back, not having it, but getting their fucking title back than the X-Men, who at one point, especially during the 90s, were so popular. They stopped writing for the Avengers.
Oh, yeah. I remember that.
Somebody may die. I think that Iron Man or somebody might die in Infinity War.
I'm going to be very disappointed if they don't.
Somebody's going to
die. When you've got the power to basically reshape reality, I'm going to be very disappointed if I don't see that scene where they kill off a ton of superheroes in that one scene.
You want to make a bet?
Go for it.
I'm feeling either Captain America or Bucky.
Definitely Captain America.
Captain America died in the comic. So I'm thinking it's got to be either Bucky or Captain America, man.
Oh, I'm thinking definitely Captain America. They're gonna go full tilt. They're gonna full tilt.
They're trying to have
we know a bunch of characters that are gonna die. We don't know which ones might stay dead.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking,
if it's anything like the comic book, then everyone's gonna die.
Everyone's gonna
die.
But
I don't think it's gonna happen like that. I do think that Thanos is gonna kill some people.
Oh yeah, it's gonna happen that way. So Thanos is gonna have a body count pretty racked up. People have been predicting who's gonna survive the first Infinity War movie. I think now with this merger, who knows? They might expand it to Infinity War Part 3 if they decide to go that route.
If there was supposed to be a part 2, there's going to be a part 1. Part 1 is
Part 1 and Part 2. Part 1's done.
So they're probably doing 2 right now. But man, these are some. You know what? We have to savor this. I always want to do this.
This is an amazing time we're in right now.
To really savor these moments. And I don't know, maybe it doesn't turn out well, but that's why I just want to savor it for the most part. I could give you tons of cons, but right now, man, I've been waiting for this since I was
because the Infinity War trailer dropped, and all I could say was, Brandon, how long?
How long
have we waited for this?
When I read the Infinity Gauntlet, I remember being at Toys R Us and reading that for the first time, and just the moment, like just the different moments from that comic book taking me off my feet. Like I had to sit down.
As a kid, that was too much.
Because superheroes die.
Yeah.
They die all the time, but they died horribly in that
for
comic book.
for
I
no
never
reason.
saw.
They were for no reason. It wasn't a heroic
wasn't
sacrifice.
Heroic.
They
at all.
lost. They lost that fight so bad.
Just spoiler alert: Spider-Man is beaten to death with
a rock. Yeah.
I mean,
Oh,
like I said.
And this is an all, in case the trailer didn't give you an idea, this was an all hands on deck situation. Every superhero you can imagine was involved in this thing. The X-Men were throwing blows at this guy. And Dr. Doom was there throwing blows at this guy.
They had to
Everyone
join forces with Doom. They had to join like good, bad.
Silver Surfer was there.
Everyone, all of these characters, now he can be there. But all of these characters, it's going to happen.
Yeah, he can now.
And maybe in Infinity War 3 or 2. But
God, man.
That is going to be, I don't know, that's going to be amazing. I'm almost speechless about it.
My mind is just freaking blown. The possibilities are endless.
It's going to open the universe. The Mouse bought their properties back at the right time.
They really did.
They did it so that they could do this. Think about it. This DC, take note. You open the universe like this. Because you got to think about it. All of these other characters, you've already introduced them. Adam Strange is going to rise out of this.
Oh, yes.
And I told you, my cousins got a lot of dark theories about Adam Strange, and it was beautiful. And we'll talk about that later. But it's like, again, all of this stuff, and like you said, Doom or somebody popping up out of nowhere, things getting real bad.
And it can happen. It can absolutely happen.
And he does some good, he actually has to do some good for once. And then all of a sudden, the Fantastic Four is like, what the hell? And they show up like, this guy's a piece of crap. Like,
dude, we could actually have a war with Wakanda versus Latvia.
Thank you.
We could actually have that. Like, we could actually have a war between Latvia and Wakanda.
I saw an Asian actor that they said may play Namor.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
So if they get all of this right,
this is crazy.
I'm turning over tables. I'm telling you, it's gonna be bad in there.
The possibilities are endless, and my brain is just overflowing with joy at this thought.
So we could literally do several shows about this, man.
We really could.
This is like, we should do a part 2 and 3, just like the Infinity War.
Exactly.
Because there's so much to talk about. There's so many different endless possibilities. I'm not interested in the Fantastic Four right now. Maybe I'll feel different. Maybe in about a year or two.
The Fantastic Four have not gotten the best treatment.
But I do feel like Reed Richards is definitely a necessary mind.
Yes.
To have in these.
Ben Grimm's great.
I like Ben Grimm. Ben Grimm is cool,
But on top of the 20th Century Fox, on top of the X-Men franchise, the Fantastic Four, they also own Deadpool now.
All of them, yeah.
Which they've also
they
had.
Own aliens.
They own aliens. Here's a big one that a lot of people have reminded you about, dude. They own Firefly.
Wow, that's great.
They own Firefly, and they just recently brought back the X-Files, Bran.
Yeah, they did.
They recently brought back the X-Files. And people are
they
already
brought back
asking.
The X-Files. I think they brought back the X-Files in the miniseries, and now it's official.
Oh, it's official. It's officially brought back now. So the X-Files are on again.
Yes.
And the brown coats are banging at the doors, asking
Gillian
them, when is it going to happen?
Great, by the way.
True,
both of them look really good.
Gillian Anderson and Andy Duchovny, they're still pretty. They're still looking good.
You guys look good. Anyway.
But people are banging. The brown coats are banging at their doors right now and saying, when is this going to happen? Please tell us you're going to bring back Firefly. Because they can do it now. And they know that the fan base is hungry for it.
I wish I would have watched all of it. But yeah, I mean, from what I did see, it was definitely, it deserved better than what it got.
Indeed. So all of these comic book franchises now falling under there, and they even went on record because, of course, I don't know why people keep making this mistake. Because they made this mistake when Disney first bought Marvel and said, oh, they're gonna make all of their characters super cute now, and they're gonna make them all light and fluffy and lighthearted.
Miramax Films.
Miramax Films.
Yeah,
they're afraid, and people are saying, "Oh man, they're gonna turn Deadpool into a Disney princess now."
Pulp Fiction, all these different films.
Like, guys, have you not paid attention? Have you not seen what they've been doing?
The mouse loves money.
The mouse loves money more than anything, and he's going to get it. I love to make this joke now. I'm gonna make this joke forevermore. All they wanted were the X-Men, man. When they years ago, when they first approached Fox about this deal and say, hey, dude, why don't you just give us the X-Men? Here's a fair price for them. I know they're a franchise for you guys, but we really want to reunite it. And apparently some shit went down in that meeting room where they felt so insulted, they cut off the X-Men franchise line.
There did everything that they could do. Yeah, they cut off the comic books. They literally killed the comic books.
There was you couldn't find an X-Men beach towel in the store.
The Fantastic Four, they killed all these different comic books. Not saying
they insulted the mouse, Brandon. They insulted them, and you know what happened next? They were like, you know what? All right, here's the X-Men. Here's the X-Men, and then the mouse said, no, we want your studio.
Which is
we want it all.
Tragic, man, because it's like the entire comic book world suffered.
We did.
And I'm not
because of that.
saying I'm not saying that we've read a lot of X-Men comic books over the last 5 years, because there haven't been that many good comic books, to
True.
really read. But
That's right.
I read some decent Fantastic Four stories. I read some decent X-Men stories. Nothing really great or groundbreaking. But damn, it didn't even exist.
And as far as the movie news is concerned, they're attempting. They're like 20th Century Fox before the merger happened. We're still attempting to make a Dark Phoenix movie based off of what they showed us in the Apocalypse film.
That's a good question. Would be what the hell are they going to do with those X-Men projects that are already completed?
Cancel them. I'm saying at this point,
But
like
even-
I would say, the
even
ones that are in
Deadpool,
projects,
though, that's
cancel
what I'm
them.
saying. Deadpool, like.
They've gone on record as basically saying, you know what, guys, we're not going to do anything different with our R-rated line. We're just going to let the folks know it's R-rated.
Yeah, that's it.
That's all they said. It's like, we're just going to make sure people know it's an R-rated movie and post that as big as they can, and then do what they're going to do with Deadpool anyway.
Yeah.
They're not looking. If there's one thing I've noticed about the mouse, he doesn't fuck up a good thing. When they buy something and they see that it makes them money, they're like, all right, maybe change a little bit, twerking a little bit here and there, just so we can, move it along with the rest of the movies. Other than that, do your thing. We'll just let everybody know this is going to be a rated R movie. We'll post it as big as we can see so these dumbass parents can make sure they know and not blame us.
Now you
And
can
then
have
that's
Charles
it.
Xavier.
Well, I'm gonna say, and another thing people got to look at. I think Disney's making this move because a lot of stupid fanboys that were complaining about about what was happening in comics, and they were blaming diversity and everything else for the comic company going down here recently, when it was really just a direct market. Is pretty much going through some death throes like the music industry did, and sadly enough, we may be losing comic shops and something. And I actually talked to a comic shop owner. And
You adapt or you die.
Exactly.
Just like you can't adapt or
it's
die.
time. A lot of things are going digital.
Yeah.
And you're gonna start going to trade paperbacks.
But that's
And
a place that you
direct
just
market.
can't lose, man.
Exactly.
You cannot lose a comic.
Oh, you
book
will
store.
have a few, but they're gonna be game shops mixed with comics.
They're going to have to do more than just comic books.
Yeah,
I know
'cause
that.
comic
I
books
can
are
live with
the
that.
way.
Circling back around to Star Wars, there was some news that I heard before The Last Jedi dropped that I thought was a really shitty move on Disney's part. That they basically strong-armed any movie theaters that were going to be showing The Last Jedi for one, showing it for a longer period of time than they usually show a blockbuster, and saying it has to be in your biggest auditorium for at least 3 weeks. And if you violate this, and not only that, they're taking usually I think any movie when it's released to the theaters, because the theaters don't get the majority of that money. So I think 60 to 65% of the take of whatever film comes out goes to the movie studio, goes to the production. Disney was taking 70, 75%, which is unheard of. So they're basically taking the majority of the take. And I thought at the time, because undoubtedly that hurt small towns where that movie was going to be shown. And it's only a population of 1,000 people. And, they're all going to see it that one weekend and then not come back. So undoubtedly that hurt the smaller theaters. But at the same time, I thought that was an asshole-ish move at the time. But then after I saw the movie, I had to say that was probably a smart move on their part. Because of how
it's built business-wise, it makes sense, but it's still unfair for the smaller movie theaters.
That's true. But looking at the film, I think somebody said, man, these fanboys are insane, and they're going to look at this purity of their nostalgia being ruined, and they're going to try, and they did. They're going to try to ruin the film and try to make the film not great and try to make it out to be worse than it is. And they fucking tried. Dude, there was an actual literal online campaign started by a bunch of trolls to lower the Rotten Tomatoes score.
No, I know. That's why the audience approval rating is 55%.
Because they literally tried to do a bunch of spam bots and troll as shit and lower the rating score of it, even though the film is my God, it's making so much money. It's broke $500 million over the course of a week.
I mean,
good.
People tune into Rotten Tomatoes. I do. If something has a 10% approval rating, I am kind of man, that's pretty tough. But it's not going to change my mind. I'm still going to watch the film and see it for myself and come up with my own opinion.
So I think Disney did that in a sense that just to kind of pad that fallout, so to speak, that they knew they were going to have with a certain portion of the franchise. That were going to hate it. They were going to hate the fact that there's a bunch of strong women in the movie. They're going to hate the fact that there's a bunch of minority characters that are not, tropes or stereotypes in the movie. They're going to hate the fact that the lead character is a woman who happens to be good at a lot of things. And they're really going to hate the fact that Luke Skywalker is kind of a broken character in this, even though he becomes redeemed.
You know what, man? I want to taste their sweet, salty tears.
I hope they're crying. They should bottle that. They should bottle that and sell it, because those tears would be, they're just so delicious.
Yeah.
They would just be so deliciously succulent. I would drink those with hedonism bot. I would.
Yes.
I would drink those in a chalice with a
Would you
hedonism bot.
regret it though?
Not one bit. I apologize for nothing, Brandon.
No.
I apologize for nothing. But that was essentially the news that I had for that we had. Guys, that was our review. We love The Last Jedi. I thought it was a great film. Justice League was okay. I don't think you'll regret it if you go see it. If you're a comic book fan, you probably will.
Yeah. If you are a normal person, you probably just think of it as just a regular disappointment.
Yeah, pretty much. You can waste an afternoon or something. I'd wait for it on DVD. But other than that, that was all I had. Guys, did you have anything else?
Doom is coming.
And I can't wait.
I can't wait to see the X-Men return to glory. That's what I want. I want to see the X-Men return to the glory that they deserve.
Part one of our conversation.
Part one of our conversation. We have more to talk about in this.
Yeah, because
we
there's
are
so
undoubtedly.
much.
There's
That's just
so many
layer one.
possibilities.
This is just the first layer.
This is just the initial shock of it happening, but there will be more to come, guys. This has been Corey, master of all four elements.
Jonathan Crane, the master of fear.
Fred Freeze, a.k.a. Doom.
Doombot in this case. And that was another episode of Critical Comix. We'll catch you folks next time.
Yeah, you got some.
Known to be graphic, I clear static, breaking up traffic. Move while I enter the groove. I'm on top and happy to prove to whack MCs who claim to be better than. No way, I'm frankly more clever than all of you. Each and every one, my son. Pay close attention. I'll take your brain to another dimension. Hold it, mold it, shape it. You got a knife? Yes, I wanna scrape it up and down, sideways, anywhere I can. Be rude to you.